Before I open the hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask George to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Abadili.
Present.
Foster.
Present.
Gilmore present. Hearn.
Present.
Lee.
Present.
Dangney.
Present.
Sampu is absent at the moment. Will be joining us later. Staff member Kim Kavanaugh.
Present.
Agent Ed Hoops.
Present.
We have a quorum and the floor is yours, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November the 7th, 2023 at 3 p.m. on the applications of Park City Wind, Stephen and Christine Foyer, John Stutter Riley and Gaining Largate, Alan A. Foyer, and Renee A. Nichols. Brian Conley. The hearing will be held remotely as televised on the Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending email requests to Darcy Curley at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This meeting is being recorded and transmitted on the Towns of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, please make your presence known. Hearing none, this afternoon's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda, next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your checks to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participations. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed by the governor on March 29, 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1, the hearing will be televised via the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. 2, the real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commissions utilizing the Zoom link 839-587-3664 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. So that the public can also email the comments to darcy.curley@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. Please note, this afternoon, the last NOI, Brian Conley, has requested for a continuance without testimony to November the 14th. This afternoon, the first item on the agenda is the enforcement order. James and Catherine Cority, Henry and Cority Henry Family Trust, 15 Piney Point Drive, Centerville, maps 228, parcel 155, failure to comply with the ongoing conditions of a certificate of compliance, SE3-5464, mitigation planting shall be retained and mitigation planting area in the 50-foot buffer shall be allowed to naturalize. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This actually came into us from a COC request for another project at this location. The one that was the COC was for a dock project that was just recently completed. At the time, Emil, when he was doing his compliance inspection, found the mitigation areas from a previous filing. This was for SE3 5464. The mitigation areas had not been retained as they were stated in the ongoing conditions of the COC. The two areas that we're talking about are the areas that are in red, which is where the mitigation areas are supposed to have been. You can see this is from the plan of record. The plan is more or less aligned at the same as the view here. And you can see that there are clearly things that are missing. This is more of a skew here, but it's the same more or less view looking for the mitigation area number 2. Again, you can see that there's a lot of things that are missing here. And then just to show a little bit better, the red arrows just show the same tree. So you're looking at that tree and the tree that's just poking out here. You can see that the cedar trees were not retained. One was looking poorly as of 2019 when Fred did the original COC inspection for that one. And then in area two, this is the garage up here. Again, the yellow or the colored arrows are for your reference, so you can see that these are the trees and landmarks to look and notice that there's clearly planting area that had been here, but it is most of it is gone at this point. So it's pretty straightforward. The COC ongoing conditions require that the planting areas be maintained, that they be allowed to naturalize, and so they need to essentially show the return to what was done back at the original COC issuance with the plan of record. Replacement of those stubs will not be able to be done until next spring at this time. So we are asking that they finish the mitigation planting or the restoration mitigation planting area by May 1st of next year. They supply 2 annual monitoring reports, and that they replace anything during those 2 years that failed to thrive. With that, I think the homeowners are here. And if you have any questions for me, I will be glad to try and answer them.
Great.
Thank you. Who's that? Oh.
Hi, my name is Kathy Henry. I'm here with my husband, Jim. Jim just had surgery, so he's not really able to talk much. So I'm going to be speaking for the two of us. But yeah, so thank you for taking the time and allowing us to speak. So we planted everything we were asked to plant. We put water down there through the temporary hoses. As you saw from the tree that looked fried, nothing is going to live there. It is an incredibly sunny, dry area, and we don't have water down there. And so we understood what we were required to do. We did it. We did not plant things and spend tens of thousands of dollars on plants just to have them die or to facilitate their death. But our concern is that we're going to do this again, and they're all going to die again. And it feels like it's a big waste of money and resources to replant things in an area that's super sunny, super dry. And so I understand that, we're not contesting that the plants all died, but I just want to be very clear. We love the property. We love the pond. We're trying to be good stewards here, but it feels like we're being set up and asked to do something that isn't going to be successful. And we're going to be doing this every few years. We're going to plant, we're going to water, we'll put the hoses in, they're going to die. And so I wonder if there's a different solution here that will satisfy the commission, but that actually isn't going to be a futile exercise. And I don't know, the trees down there are dying. It's a really dry, full sun, arid area. And again, we're not trying to be disrespectful of the commission, and we don't want to cause harm to the pond. But it feels like it's unfair to do something that didn't work the first time. And like I said, we hired someone to, professionally plant them. We had the hoses. It was just over time. Things don't live there. We've had other trees by the garage that we tried to plant. Same thing. They all turned brown and they all died despite watering and caring for them. So I guess we're asking for perhaps a different approach that would satisfy the commission, but that isn't going to be us spending $10,000 every 2 years to replant stuff that isn't going to thrive there.
Thank you for your comment. I don't think that's our intent to drive you to spend more money and do it every other year. That's not our intent. I think, we should go back. We can take a look with Ed and see what option do we have to minimize your problems and satisfy our commissions. So
And we have the list, we chose from the list of plantings that we were given from the commission. I have it here. I know, I don't know who the person is by the map, but we know what we planted. Again, none of it thrived. I don't know if there's a different part of the yard that we can do the plantings in that isn't that full sun. I don't know how this works, but I give you our word that we did what we were asked to do. We did not want them to die. It looked prettier with the plants. It is like, if you go to our property, the front of the house has beautiful stuff in it. And the back, it's just that dry crabgrass stuff that just doesn't live. And if you go around the pond area, that's pretty on our side, which is the sunny side. That's pretty much what you're going to see, unless it's invasive stuff that you don't want us planting anyway.
Right. Okay. Ed, what do you think?
I can certainly, I'm willing to work with their landscape professional to design a better selection of plants. That's not an issue, but there should be something there. And if it needs where you have to actually plant or continue with above ground irrigation in times of, especially at times of drought, then I would suggest that we would allow that to occur as well. But I'm certainly willing to work with their landscaper to come up with a better palette of plants.
And John has his hand up, Tom. John has his hand up.
John?
Yeah, I don't think that burden should be on it, Tom. To the homeowner, it is important from an environmental point of view to have plants there between the house and the body of water. That, as you probably understand, that provides a significantly important filtration system. To say that it's sunny, one of my problems, I have a garden that's in the shade. I wish I had a lot more sun. There are plants that will thrive in the sun. Irrigation may be required beyond the initial period, as Ed said. But it seems to me, Tom, the homeowner should be obligated to retain a landscaper who understands the conditions and proposes a plan that is then acceptable to the conservation staff.
That's what we did the first time. To be clear, we hired professionals. They did a plan. We were given the list. We thought we did what was best for the temperatures and the sun and everything. And we watered them, and we had the water system, the temporary water system, because we can't, have underground water there, understandably, and it didn't work. So we feel like this is an overburden because, again, we want to do what's right, and I understand the water filtration, but I'm just worried that nothing is going to thrive in that area because nothing has thrived in that area. And we've been on this house, we've had this property for 16 years. I would love more than just the crabgrass or whatever it is that's there. I'm just being fully honest with you.
I understand, but I guess I have enough experience where there is, in fact, there has to be plants that can be put in there that will thrive under those conditions. I mean, a sunny spot is not unusual for plants to thrive. And again, I'm far from being an expert on it, but it seems to me to retain somebody who has knowledge of those conditions and of plants. They're very good consultants at the Cape, but I'm sure could come up with a plan that will satisfy the conditions that you're talking about. And again, if watering is required beyond the initial period, I would support that if that's what, but I think it is important that you be asked to take a second look at this thing with a different landscaper and come up with something that'll meet the environmental needs that I'm sure that the body of water needs. That's at least my view.
Thanks, John. Any other questions from the commissioner?
Yeah, I have my hand up.
Bill?
I completely second what John said. That being said, I'm sympathetic. Here you tried to, get this thing to take. You wanted the plants to grow, and they didn't grow. There's something weird about this spot. And I'm not an expert, but I think, was it overwatered? Was there some weird clay layer? I have no idea. But a thought came to mind that when you said you picked out the plants, I just wonder if, rather than you picking out the plants, having that landscape expert pick out the plants, because I find it really hard to believe that in a sunny spot in the Cape on a lake shoreline you have this death zone. It doesn't make sense. So
No, I
therefore,
know, and we chose from the list we were given. We didn't, trust me, it would have been all hydrangeas and they all probably would have dried. But we were sort of given a list, and we worked with a Cape Cod professional, known landscaper, and they sort of did the map and we picked them out. And I'm not an expert in plants, and that was approved by the commission. By the Conservation Commission, you guys approved the plan, and we had like a menu to select from. Trust me, it wasn't.
right. Okay.
And I'm clueless, by the way. All right.
I can't imagine. I just cannot imagine why there would be this, if you will, bald spot on your property where nothing grows, that people can't somehow get that thing to grow. So I guess I'm just seconding John, and give it another go, and then we'll have to talk in another 3 years. So it's like, what?
Hold on. Let me say one thing. Sorry.
It's just that the area, I'm not too sure what's going on with it, but we do have a lot of, I think it's milkweed, and which kills a lot of the plants. And as much as Kathy and I try to stay on top of it, we've had great success in the front, but really nothing in the back of the pond. But we're open to, we're here for the long run. We intend to be in Centerville on Long Pond for many, many, many years. And we love Long Pond. We want to be a good neighbor, and we want to take good care of the pond. So we want to work with you, but at the same time, it just seems frustrating to have this requirement when we're doing our due diligence, and it just didn't plant. But we're open to hearing more about what type of plants would do better, and to continue to work with the Conservation Commission.
So as I understand correctly, do you have a landscape persons that can pick out some plant to consult with Ed?
Well, we're probably not going to use the same group we used last time, because here we are, right?
Right.
But I don't know. We'll hire someone, but yeah, I think, and maybe we'll work with Darcy. I don't know if Darcy doesn't, or if there's an expert on the Conservation Commission on this, but it would be good to know sort of, what are the preferred drought-resistant plantings that, in your experience, would do well there, and to meet the goals of the filtration of any kind of runoff going into the pond that will also to survive that area.
Yeah, we go to Gone Chocolate like a couple of times a week, and the conservation group that's right there has some beautiful plants in the front of their office that we could consult with them and see what kind of, because we have a problem with there's some erosion that's taking place on some portions of the hill, and maybe some ground cover or invasive plants would be, indigenous plants would be good.
Tom, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the commission staff could give you a list of, right, Ed, correct me if you disagree, but we do probably maintain a list of landscapers that have some expertise on waterfront properties like yours. So I think that you could go to the commission and get a list of these landscape ones, and then obviously we cannot recommend anybody, but you could then. I also would say to you that as far as this commissioner goes, if that landscape expert came back and said, there's no way it's going to grow, they're just wasting their money, that would be very strong evidence for a different position that I would take. Yeah, but if I would like to think that landscaper with his or her knowledge and expertise in this environment would be able to come up with something that would meet the environmental concerns that we're trying to protect, as well as obviously you not having to come back in 3 years and say, we wasted another 3 years. That is certainly not our objective. But again, I think hiring an expert in these conditions and hearing back from him or her would be a great way to go.
Right. Thank you, John. Any other comment from the commissioner or questions? None? So, Kathy, is it Kathy?
Kathy, yes. Yep.
Kathy and Jim, work with Ed, and Ed can provide the list of the landscape architect and to kind of help you out, and then see what's their opinion, and then working with Ed. Darcy is out of the office today. If she's in the office, she can probably help you too. So could I have a motion to approve the enforcement order as written?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Lee,
Aye.
Vern,
Aye.
Pagney,
Aye.
that's unanimous.
Good luck.
Thank
Good
you.
recovery. We have one RDA Park City Wind installation of a monitoring well within riverfront area for hydrological testing when necessary for planning and design purposes at 2 Short Beach Road, Centerville, as shown on the Assessors Maps 206, parcel 044. Jack.
Hey, Chairman Lee. Good evening, good afternoon, commissioners and staff. I'm here on behalf of Avangrid Renewables, and with me today is Hans Van Lingen from Avangrid. We're here to briefly revisit 2 Short Beach Road. This is a site that the commission is very familiar with. Of course, it's the property that the proposed microtunnel for the Centerville River crossing would begin at. The NOI that you recently reviewed and approved that included that property did not specifically include this monitoring well installation, which is needed to help design the dewatering system that will be required for the microtunnel. And so Avangrid, out of respect for the community and a lot of the public comments that have been received on the project, felt it would be prudent to come before you with an RDA to just present what exactly is being proposed. And that it's fairly simple. It's a one monitoring well that would be installed on the site within what had been until fairly recently a driveway. Minimal disturbance to the site.
Jack, do you want to show the drawing?
Sure. Sorry about that. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see that red dot at the end of the driveway. It'd be very, very easy to back a drill rig up into that position, install the well. It'll be installed to a depth of about 50 feet with a well screen between 30 feet and 50-foot depth. There'll be a pump test done on that well to do some evaluation of the amount of water that would be yielded under certain pump conditions. And again, the whole idea is to get as much information as possible so that the dewatering system for the microtunnel will be effective. It looks like the maximum discharge from the pump test would be about 10 gallons per minute, which for comparison is about the equivalent of a garden hose, not a high volume discharge at all. So, I mean, that's really the extent of it. Just, pointing out that it would be considered a minor project, which is exempt ordinarily under the Weather Protection Act, since it's, essentially survey activity that's required for planning and design purposes. So that's really all I have to say about this. Hans, did you want to add anything?
No, I guess the one thing we'll add is that as we're performing the pumping test, the water will be directed into a vegetated area. It'll be controlled, and we'll make sure there's no erosion or movement of surface materials as that occurs.
Jack, with the discharge, even though the volume is kind of small, 10 GPMs, per flow stuff, but I think it would be nice to know what is the discharge requirement. I mean, the erosion protections wise on that discharge. And the flow is like I said, is small, but I just want to make sure there's no erosions coming out from there.
Right.
So is there something that you can submit to the staff and they can review it as you're moving forward with this stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, as Hans mentioned, it will be discharged into a vegetated area, but it can certainly be discharged into a hay bale fort or a filter bag if that's what the commission prefers. We can work that out with staff.
Okay, thanks. George?
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, so it seems to me then that this is to determine how much water you have to pump in order to put in when you have to put in the cofferdam for the microtunnel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was my only question.
Angela?
What time of year, and will this still fall under the same constraints as the rest of the project? What time of year are you planning on doing this?
This will be done probably in the first week of December.
Okay, thank you.
Louise?
Thank you. How long do you expect that this well will be there in use?
So the initial pump test will be going on for about 2 days. I believe it's a 30-day monitoring period, Hans, but could you weigh in on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the well is only really ultimately necessary for the time that we do the test. It may remain in place for longer if allowed, but just because it's right at the ground surface. I mean, it's a 2-inch piece of PVC pipe. But if the commission prefers, I mean, we can probably pull it out and backfill the hole. If that's the preference. I mean, once we have the information collected, we should be good.
So you just said you're going to probably install it in December. So theoretically it could come out when? When will you have all the data that you need?
So yeah, I guess within a couple months of actually performing the test, just to confirm we have the information. I don't anticipate it being more than a single test event, which is 8 to 10 hours. But I'm just thinking in the realm of possibilities and if there's any need to revisit it. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be there very long. Within a year, I guess, worst case scenario.
A year?
Yeah, or shorter, or I'm just trying to, make sure that we were able to collect whatever information is needed if there's any subsequent questions from, say, the contractor on an additional pump test or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. As a normal practice, when we're doing this, especially a 2-inch monitoring well, once you did your pump test, you can always cap it from the top there and leave the PVC casing in the ground. I mean, that's how I normally do it on all the other monitoring well that we typically do. Removing it, yeah, you can remove it and backfill it too, but it's only a 2-inch. So I'm just wondering whether that would be necessary or not, but that's only my thought. Bill?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about it being in there for a year or whatever. I support what you just said, Tom. My question is regarding when you're drilling, you're pulling sediment out, and what happens to the sediment that you're drilling out? Where does that go?
Yeah, it would be an auger that drills down for the well installation, and you're right, there will be a small amount of material that's being drawn up out of the hole. That can be collected as it's being pulled up out of the hole and carted off. We did install some wells elsewhere in town and alongside the roads for some of the geotechnical investigations that were done, and granted, it wasn't to this same depth, but it was a fairly simple matter to gather up that material and dispose of it.
Given the sensitivity of this project and this crossing, as you know, I just wonder if just collecting that sediment and disposing it, way away in a safe place is a good idea. I would recommend that.
That's a good point. Thank you.
We're happy to do whatever the Conservation Commission thinks is appropriate.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think number one, you need to know what the soil material is. So you probably trying to look at what is the, how much clay, how much sand and stuff like that, medium sand and that sort of thing, classifications of the soil. And then once you get that information, you can dispose it offsite properly. That's all. Who else did I? John. John, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think it's a pretty minor project and not at all worried about it. I also, Jack, it's my understanding, as I recall, that you've got a replanting plan that you're going to have to submit for that property anyways at some point. So I'm sure that would be covered by this, would it not?
That's right. In fact, the well is going to be installed in the area of the jacking shaft, so it will certainly be coming out at that point.
All right. Thank you. I think it's pretty minor project. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. Any other question from the commissioner? Any public comment? Channel 18.
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determinations?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Tangney,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Byrne,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster,
Aye.
Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
We have 4 NOI this afternoon. The first one is Stephen and Christine Foyer to remove invasive plant species, construct sand path and fire pit at 0 Bridge Street, Osterville, as shown on the Assessors Map 093, parcel 036-005. Wayne?
Yes, hello. Hi, am I sharing the screen?
Yes,
Hello?
we are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, good afternoon. I'm glad I'm sharing a screen. We have our owners, Steve and Christine Fournier. They live at 215 Bridge Street. And in the deed, they have a connection with this easement. If you can see the aerial, and you can see the bubble or the balloon where they live.
We don't see any. I mean, we saw the screen with the PDF, but no image.
No image on that PDF?
Well, you have not clicked the PDF yet, I think.
Yeah, click it.
Hang on a second. Oh boy. Top share.
You have 2 screens. Yeah, I think you're sharing the other screen.
Sorry. Very sorry here. Okay. This is my screen. Do you see that?
Yeah.
You have to click, you double click on the PDF though.
You need to open it.
I did. I'm looking at it on
You're
online.
sharing the wrong screen. So maybe just drag it over to the other screen and then we'll be able to see it.
Okay, let me try this again. Here. Does that work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It did work. Oh boy. Sorry. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Do you see 215 Bridge Street? Can you see my pointer?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, they own 215 Bridge Street, and they have a deeded right to access this easement, which is down here. I've discussed this with Ed Hoops for quite a while. What the goal is, like everyone else who owns property near the water, is take advantage of it. This is a very passive use that we're asking for here. We're looking. The connection here, by the way, is to the right. There's a driveway that's at 209 Bridge Street, and there was an easement there. That easement led all the way down to this land, which is to be discussed. This easement, 230 feet long by 15 feet wide, is here. The owner would like to walk to this area. And now if I can get another plan up. Am I sharing this screen?
Yeah, you probably have the same thing. You have to drag the image to the screen that you are showing.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, you got it? Okay,
Yep.
great. This is the road to Bridge Street, and this is the project. This has been designed by Julia's Garden, who is who Stephen Fournier is the client of. So they're excellent landscape designers. Actually, the last project we presented was on their behalf. So what we have here is a coastal bank. We have the topography as shown. We have a boat ramp. We have the adjacent owners. They've all been notified, by the way. All the green cards were turned in. So we have a area of flood zone in this area. It's well vegetated. It is more vegetated than the surrounding land. And can everybody see my pointer?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is 15 feet wide, approximately 233 feet long. The old easement was adjacent to the end of the path. We staked it out, and I spoke actually with John Abadili yesterday in the rain. I'm sorry, John, that it was raining on this. But I had staked out the center line of a sinusoidal or circuitous path to an area that stops 50 feet short of the top of the coastal bank. And we can see the 50-foot buffer. We can see the 100-foot buffer. This area is infested with invasive species. So the idea is a quid pro quo of removal of invasive species. My narrative on this project was very short because actually there's no structures of significance that we're putting on this project. What we're doing is we're going through the whole project and removing 4 different types of invasives. We are not touching a 50-foot buffer except to remove those invasives. That's it. So this area here is to be left alone, but in good stewardship, we'd like to remove all the invasives. And we're removing all the invasives throughout the other 200 feet. We're creating a path down the middle, a design path. It makes it easier for continued maintenance to reach only 6 or 7 feet over to remove these invasives. So these dots that appear in the sinuses of this pathway are to be left, but cleaned of invasive species. In the beginning of this, it's fairly open. So we'd add some of the planting that Hannah, who works for Julia's Garden, has designed and designated in this bubble over here of plants that are both native and work in this area as substitutes for the invasives to be removed. So to explain the project in depth, the owners would walk down Bridge Street around the corner. And this here, it says to Bridge Street. This is the old easement. That easement has been discontinued in a deed, but the idea was at the top of the path is 215 Bridge Street, was to walk down the easement and onto their property. There was a contiguity to this. Now the owners have to go out onto Bridge Street proper, which is in the other direction, walk down around the road and onto the property. Either way, there's a attorney's letter that designates how this has been accessed, how it's legal in 2 different ways for access and contiguity with the owner's own property. So a path would be carved out of here. What we do is probably use a ditch witch and cut this path 3 feet wide and clean, very clean, and as well as picking out the invasive species. Again, Julia has another project up at 315 South Main Street, where she's done a tremendous job of removing invasives. This would be turned into a sand path. That's all it is, a sand, beach sand type of path. It would lead to a patio here, and I use the term loosely because it's a very loose patio. Again, it's not structural. Even the town building department does not call patios a structure. we put bluestone in, and 4 Adirondack chairs. They appear on this plan. And a fire pit. Fire pit is basically in ground with only one set of 6 blocks exposed with a capstone, and all of the paper, logs, what have you, that usually goes into a fire pit would be put in. And there's a cover for the fire pit so that when it's not in use, it's covered and not a safety issue. The 4 Adirondack chairs are the only, we don't call them structures because they're loose. In case of a flood, what we would do is we'd anchor these into the ground like arborists tie trees so that they don't blow over when they're planted new. It's called a duckbill system. You pound these duckbills into the ground with a cable. You put holes in, 2 holes in each side of the Adirondack chairs, and you winch them to a point where they can't move. So these have to be placed carefully. They're not to be moved. Water rushes through them, water rushes around them, but they can't float. The bluestone that's in there as a patio surface, for lack of a better word, has nothing but sand in between it. The only material here, we're not using stone dust, we're not using gravel, we're using the same sand, beach sand, that we're using in the path. If a flood comes in and removes this, of course, it's on the owners to either repair it or so forth. Nothing can float away. The weight of bluestone is too heavy to move away. The weight of the blocks for the fire pit, too heavy to move away. The weight of a composite Adirondack chair, yes, if it was loose, it would be it could float away. It's tied to the ground. There will be 8 duckbills, 2 per chair for this project. The benefit of it is that the invasives would be removed. There is no negative effect to any of the neighbors. The owner, Mr. Fournier, and I met on the site. He has said that the owners and the adjacent neighbors are welcome to use this anytime that they're not in use. The chairs aren't going anywhere. The fire pit can be used. The fire pit will be closed, and there will be a season for the chairs to be out there. Obviously, no sooner than June, and they will disappear no later than, say, September, when the start of the season goes by. So this is not a permanent type of a fixture. The patio would remain, of course, and so would the fire pit. It is a good project. My narrative was short because there's no significance in any of the 8 performance standards that are not being met on this project. I know Ed has viewed it a couple times. Mr. Abadili was there yesterday. I don't know if anybody else has viewed it, but I'd welcome any questions you would have. I hope I've explained it carefully. Thanks for your patience with me.
Thank you, Wayne. One quick question. We still have not received the DEP number. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it either. No, it was sent in, and you schedule this pretty quickly for us. So sometimes there's an overlap. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So with the DEP number, we may need a continuance, waiting for the issuing of the DEP number, and then pending on the question from the commissioner. So.
Sure. Sure.
Questions. I saw Angela's hands first.
Yes, I think he answered the question. I guess he stated this is to be used by all the abutters may use it. It's not just for the owners. Everybody has access to using this.
Yes, that's correct. There is a gate that's adjacent to the patio outside the 50-foot line. And that gate leads right to the patio. So I think that Mrs. Ward's house, I'm not quite sure, but he's talked to her about it. She seems to be fine. If she's here and has other things to say, then let it be said. But she has direct access to it, and the patio is close enough to the walkway where the owners to the south have direct access to just step up on the patio. There is a few plants in there that are there, but he says if they're not using it, why not let the neighborhood use it?
So public use, somebody rides their bike, parks it on the street, can walk down and use it.
I wouldn't use it to that extent. I mean, now I'm pretending I'm the owner. I would say that the abutters and the neighbors that there would be able to use it, but no, not as far as the general public is concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The plants that you're removing, you said were invasive, and I'm thinking that they're largely Rosa rugosa. Is that right?
No, there's a lot of Rosa rugosa here, and of course that's an issue. I go before, I don't know, half of the commissions on the Cape, and everybody talks about Rosa rugosa. One of the things that I think that came up that was very fair is that if Rosa rugosa exists on the site, instead of removing it all, leave it, but come up with substitutes. We are not adding any more Rosa rugosa. We're leaving the Rosa rugosa. Primarily, what's there is bayberry. You got a lot of bayberry there. You have sumac that's there. You do have a lot of Rosa rugosa. So we're not removing that other than the fact that it's in the path. So we're trying to use good sense. If we do, we'll substitute Virginia rose. And we found out Virginia rose, although it's on the accepted list, is less hardy than Rosa rugosa. So in proper maintenance, as long as Julia's company is keeping up the maintenance on this, which they will do, they'll be asked to clear the path and so forth, that the Rosa rugosa would be pruned back and the hips removed so that they're sheared and you don't have a spread of Rosa rugosa. In the patio area alone, get away from the Rosa rugosa, is that area is totally taken over by bittersweet. Bittersweet is the main nemesis of this site, not the Rosa rugosa. It stays confined. Why? Because the neighbors to the north mow their lawns right up to the fence, and the asphalt to the south is confining the Rosa rugosa. And by the way, one last thing about Rosa rugosa, it only meets 7 of the 10 criteria. So it is a nuisance, but not an invasive species.
But okay, so you said bayberry, and you're clearing out. You're leaving the bayberry, is that right?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. The point that I'm trying to make or a question or what have you is I look at your plant list, and I was comparing it to our plant list for trees and shrubs, and I see beach grass, and I see aster, and I don't know what a Calamagrostis Carl Forrester is, and I'm looking for these other species, and I'm thinking, are these largely like meadow annuals, if you will? Is it creating more of a meadow here rather than the shrubs, or?
Yeah, they're herbaceous. Most of those are herbaceous, and what you have in there is woody shrubs. There are no trees that exist.
So as I was looking at this 15-foot wide swath, you're leaving the bayberry. Right. You're leaving. Are you leaving the sumac or not? Or
we're leaving the sumac. Yes.
Okay, so you are leaving some trees, and then you're filling in with herbaceous plants.
Yeah, because the areas are so skinny that we are. In the beginning, we could add, if you would like, I'm sorry, I don't want to take over this conversation.
I was just concerned that you weren't like mowing the whole thing down, and then the day you're gonna have a meadow in there that could potentially be mowed on an annual basis. You're not doing that.
Not at all. We're going to be very careful. By the way, I didn't mention it. That the whole area of the path, including with the patio, is 556 square feet. That entire easement, being 230 some odd feet long and 15 feet wide, is about 3,000 square feet. We're only touching about 15 to 20% of that. And we're going to be very careful in the delineation, just like my flags were. Very careful on the delineation, taking out no bit more bayberry, taking out no more sumac. We're leaving everything natural. In the beginning of the path, it's kind of open, and maybe we need to add a few more woody plants in there. But near the patio, for no other reason other than the skinniness of the planting area, is why Hannah came up with this herbaceous list. They're still native, and they will hold.
I have no problem with the clearing and the chairs and all that. I was just concerned about the full extent of the path leading up to it. But you are leaving the bushes. That's all I have. Thanks.
Oh yeah, thank you. Sorry,
Luis.
Do you really expect that one yanking is going to be sufficient for to eradicate the bittersweet? That place is loaded with it. What I have learned from being on this commission, one thing I have learned is that bittersweet comes back year after year, and you have to kind of keep after it.
Yeah, with a vengeance, it comes back.
Right.
As mentioned, Julia has another project that was successful. It went through a 3-year process, and we ripped out the same amount of material or the same types of invasive species on a bigger platform than this, way bigger. And what she did is she hand pulled all this material. I was there. I supervised the project. And if you stay with it and you hand pull and you get as many roots as you can knock down invasives like
bittersweet.
Bittersweet. Thank you. Thank you. I'm on a podium here. You can beat it, but you need to use a 3-year process. It comes back less and less every year, and eventually you do beat it. On the other project, it was so successful after 3 years that we were allowed to replant it with beneficial plants. And that was the one I alluded to up on South Main Street. So yes, but you have to do it correctly. You cannot clip bittersweet. If you clip it, all you're doing is allowing it to spread. So you have to find its roots, pull it. And the same thing goes for the autumn olive that's down there, the bush honeysuckle that's down there, and one other invasive that I'm missing. I'm sorry. It's on the list.
Okay, so obviously this is going to be a multi-year, a 3-year kind of activity at least, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, first, Wayne, I got lost in that development yesterday in the rain. So I called Wayne and he straightened me out and found the location, and I walked it a few times. Thank you, Wayne, for that guidance. I must say, you got the pavement on one side of it, you've got green grass growing on the other side of this. I think the environmental impact of this is pretty de minimis. It's really small. So I've got no problem with the project, Wayne, from my point of view.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Any other question from the commissioner? George?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Do we need an annual report on this?
I'm not thinking about that. Ed, what your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily need it right now. You certainly want to see something before any sign off for a COC, but this is relatively minor work, what they're doing. So no, I don't think you need a monitoring report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wayne, we need a continuance date. So do you think that November 14 would be sufficient for the issue of the DEP number?
That would be my guess. They turn it over very fast, especially if you call them and you tell them there's a constraint on it. So I take the 14th if you give it. Sure, if you vote on it.
Okay.
Please.
10 to 18, end the public comment on this.
Yeah, I see Tom Roberts has his hand raised.
Tom Roberts?
Yes, sir. That's me. Thank you very much. I'm just got a quick question, sir. I'm the butter. My wife and I are the butters to the south. And we're perfectly understanding of people trying to get their access to the water and enjoy the view. Is this as contemplated, sir, a wood burning fireplace or a gas fireplace?
Okay, you're asking the proponent?
I guess, sorry, I don't know the process, but I assume so. Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, nice to meet you. I think I met your wife on site actually way back. No, this is all material that you can carry down there. There's no gas. We would never think of gas down there. So it would be paper, it would be kindling, it would be wood.
Got it. I was actually, to be honest, I was headed the other direction. I was just worried about sparks. Right, there is a lot of vegetation. The wind blows pretty hard across that property in the summer when you'd be using it, essentially, usually from the southwest.
Sure.
And, that would blow towards the neighbors primarily and or trees. Now, if you got a north wind, of course, it could blow towards our house. But I don't know I really don't, I know what it looks like, of course, it's next to my property, but I assume this fire pit is just a few feet from the property line. Right.
It's actually about 5 feet away from the property line.
Yeah.
It's about 5 feet.
I was just worried about spark control. My main question was understanding was gas or wood. And then given that it's wood, I was worrying about it. That's all.
Sure.
Because there's trees actually to the northeast of where this will be. There's a pretty good stand of trees on the neighbor's property between her and the water that I would worry is in a flow of sparks with even a decent southwesterly breeze, which is certainly very common there in the summer.
Sure. I think common sense would prevail. In other words, if the wind was above a certain speed, 10 knots or what have you, that they wouldn't go down there. It would be A, uncomfortable, and B, your point is well made. And I think the commission could sort of verify that and say, hey, let's look at the wind and so forth. Leave us not forget that this is a 3-foot diameter pit. That's what it is. And there is a cover that's made for this. The cover would stay on it so no one steps in this and breaks their ankle. And also the cover extinguishes any fires that would be done. So I think you're concerned that while the fire is burning and while the people are using the chairs, that the sparks could go over to that side yard. It is pretty full of vegetation, some of it invasive, but you also add red cedar to it. And let's see, a lot of red cedar in that area. But it's at least 50 feet away because we're maintaining the 50-foot buffer. So it has a long way for those sparks to go.
Got it.
Yeah.
50-foot buffer. I thought the 50-foot buffer was to the water line. But anyway, I certainly want our neighbors to be able to do what they want. But I'd ask that they take a hard look at spark control.
Can they do gas?
So.
Okay. Thank you. Channel 18, is there any more public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to a continuance to November the 14th, waiting for the issuance of the DEP number?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Navadili.
Oops.
John, you're muted.
You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Tangney.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, Wayne.
Okay, thank you so much.
The next NOI is John's Starters, Riley, and Galen Largate to remove existing indoor pool and add a proposed additions, deck and pool, back pool and patio at 35 Boy Road, Osterville, as shown on the Assessors Map 117, parcel 014. I think this is John.
It is. Good evening, afternoon still. John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting, representing the applicants. Pull up a plan for you all. As was mentioned, this project site's located at 35 Quail Lane. It's a little under an acre parcel of land. It's developed with an existing dwelling that was constructed in the 1960s. There's a bordering vegetated wetland running along the rear of the property. The back portion of the house, which is shown kind of grayed and dashed out on this existing drawing, hopefully you made it there as well, is an indoor pool area. And the project as proposed is to remove that indoor pool area, small corner of which is within the 50-foot buffer, being right in here. So it's to remove that indoor pool area, There is a small addition proposed in the outer buffer area on top of an existing deck that's at that southwest corner of the house. A deck area and some patio work within the footprint of what was formerly that pool room area. And then a new pool and patio being constructed off to the side of that. So all of the proposed work has been designed to be outside of the 50-foot buffer. And we have provided our buffer zone calculations and come up with an appropriate mitigation area based on those. So I think it's a pretty straightforward project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, John. Questions? John? How about John?
Am I good? Yes, thank you. John, you've got, if you look at your work, the hay bales and the work limit line there, you've got this indent right there, you know, because you need that for the demolition.
Yep.
So can we then say after the demolition, that line will be moved out to the 50? That hay bales can be moved out to the 50 and include that in the mitigation area?
No, I think that would be more mitigation than is needed. So the hay bales are set up to be also then what will become the edge of the mitigation area. I think that note right there is actually pointing to, I had drawn even within the mitigation area, a little semicircle, you know, maybe 10 or 12 feet off the building corner, just to give enough room for access around this during demolition. And then those hay bales would be pulled landward towards the amount of mitigation.
Oh, okay, so then I'm confused. So after the demolition, you would move the hay bales up to the 50. Is that correct?
No.
No. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you just said that. I apologize. Try it again.
We'd move them landward to what will be the limit of the yard after the mitigation. So we'll bring them to the interface of yard and what will become the mitigation naturalized area. So just in this corner, there is a portion of what's existing building and stuff that is within the 50 that will remain as yard. And so
okay, so then you could, at least within that 50, within that area where your little arrow is now, you're going to put grass or something. Is that correct? Could you
yes,
so note that?
That area will be revegetated, yes.
Okay, can you put that note on the plan?
Sure.
That the work limit line would be moved up and that area would be revegetated.
Yep.
Okay. Secondly, just a procedural question. I looked at your mitigation calculations. And I couldn't quite figure out if they added up. Maybe I was wrong, but because
I would agree. I couldn't understand it either.
Okay.
If you look at it, you ended up saying, okay, existing, and then down below under existing, total was 57 square feet. That didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, thank you, Louise. I thought it was my math that was messed up.
So that must have been copied over, left over from the 0 to 50, because that's what that area was.
Right.
So I can check those numbers here for a second to see if hopefully the total down below ends up being
Could you just verify the numbers when you get a chance, because what's on this piece of paper doesn't add up, right? That's all.
Yeah, I understand that right in here.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, that 50 to 100, that was one of my comments. That's completely messed up. However, if you look at the mitigation required, that equation down below, it kind of made sense to me. So I'm just thinking your first 4 squares up there are just messed up.
Yeah.
The other point that I wanted to make or ask is that the mitigation area is going to be allowed to, grow wild and free, and you're not going to have it into some mulched wild azalea yard.
We'll be allowed to naturalize, and I think that there's standard conditions that address that.
Bill, we might want to request a demarcation.
I think we even had those on the plan and in our kind of notes here about So we showed them showed a bunch of them all along that
Yeah.
line.
They are demarcated. They are there, but I just, you can always take a lawnmower in there or mulch it or what have you. And I just like to see the thing run wild.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
John, you might want to double check your mitigation calculations.
We'll certainly do that and make sure they're corrected along with noting the restoring this area with grass.
Grass. Yeah. Any other question from the commissioner? And I think on this one, I would require the annual report.
Yep.
Yes, you'll have to do it as part of the order.
Yeah.
They will need it. Yeah.
Yeah. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan on the mitigation calculations plus the labeling of the grass area on the existing building there after demolitions?
So moved.
Annual report?
No, plus the annual report for 3 years.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Tangney.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Byrne.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. The next NOI is Alan A. Fourier and Renee A. Nichols. Proposed raise and replace a single-family dwelling in 87 Marston Avenue, Hyannis, as shown on the Assessors Maps 288, parcel 126. Dan?
Yes, good evening, commissioners, or afternoon rather. Dan Ojal, I'm a surveyor and civil engineer with Downcape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping the folks out at 87 Marston with some more permitting. I'll share the screen. The situation here is that you've already looked at this project and approved it. It was no real increase in hardscape. In fact, it was going down a little bit. There was some concerns. I'm sure Ed would at least recall, we had noticed years back there was some fill in this area. And so we mitigated that with some 400 square foot of mitigation plantings. That stands. That plan, it was dated 3/28/23 that we finally resolved all that, and that can be part of the conditions if needed. But certainly that's still a valid. The problem with this was we were putting a small addition on the front, and when they got into the foundation work, it was kind of the house that Jack built. There was additions over the years, and the central section was a real mess. There was loose concrete block. The front block wall, which wasn't noticeable from the outside, was leaning in, unsafe condition. And so we got a recommendation from a structural engineer that to tear the house down and rebuild it would be better, because it's so tough to redo that whole foundation and extend the walls down. And by the time you get done with all that, it was just a false economy. So he'd recommend just removing it and replacing it in exactly the same footprint as what we'd proposed before. And so that's what we're proposing. So you can see it's just a little tiny porch. It's almost all of it, or most of it, is outside of the 100 foot to the wetland. So it's a very tiny amount. And then the amount of hardscape that we're picking up overcompensated for that between the patio and all that. But there was existing, it was a net 4, -4 in the 50 and -68 in the 100. But you are still getting those 400 square foot of mitigation plantings down on the edge of that old fill to the south. We did just get an SE number 36139 came in at the 11th hour. No comments. If you have any questions, I'd be certainly glad to answer them. But again, it's pretty much the same exact project. It's just we got to redo it in the same footprint. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Bill?
I looked on the plans for where you get a net -4 square feet, and it was like hunting for something. And can you find it? And I thought, well, maybe it has to do with the driveway over in the corner. And question one, is that true? It is the driveway. And then I wondered, what are vehicle track pavers?
So that would just be basically concrete, 5,000 PSI blocks just to support it. If someone were to come down and, say pump the septic tank or have a vehicle in that lower lawn, that it wouldn't spin out as it goes up the hill. It's to look like lawn, except there's just in the middle of it, there's little bricks to grab the tires.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other question from the commissioner? None. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none?
Could I have a motion to approve this project as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Abadili,
Aye.
Tangney.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good luck.
Okay. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
The last NOI is Brian Conley. Proposed vegetation management to remove a dense cover of invasive, non-native, and aggressive plant species at 169 Southern Point Road, Barnstable, as shown on the Assessors Map 301, Parcel 003. The applicant has requested for a continuance without testimony to November the 14th. Could I have a motion to continue this application to November the 14th without testimony?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangney,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. We have one continuance. One is the amended orders. Town of Barnstable, DPW, proposed update construction access and maintenance plan for the Bluffs Point stabilization project at 307 and 329 Millway, Barnstable, as shown on Assessors Map 301, Parcel 064 and 009. Amber.
Hello, Commissioners. Amber Unruh, Town of Barnstable, Department of Public Works. Today we actually have Mitch Buck from Woods Hole Group representing the town for this project. So I'll turn it over to Mitch. Thank you.
Thank you. Mitch.
Hello, Mitchell Buck with the Woods Hole Group here, and I'm here today to present on the amended order application for the Blish Point project for the town of Barnstable. So I don't know, would you rather that I share my screen with the plan, or would the commission members rather do that on their end?
No, you can share the screen.
Okay, hold on. Let's see.
The green button.
Yeah. Can the commission members and the attendees see the plan?
Yes.
Okay, so the reason why that the town is applying for amended order of conditions is after the Division of Marine Fisheries was observing horseshoe crabs, they saw work going on the beach and had some concerns about the maintenance work, the sand placement that was being done. So the town had some discussions with DMF, and they wanted a time of year restriction for horseshoe crabs for working on the beach, and also wanted an updated existing conditions plan for the project. This project was originally constructed in 2015. CLE Engineering applied for the project. It was a core bag solution that was constructed on the front face of the dune to protect the artificial dune, which contains fine dredge spoils and protects it from leaching into the harbor. And the town has inactive order conditions to place sand on this bioengineering core solution to keep it in place, to keep it covered, to prevent the project from degrading and failing prematurely, and also to add to the aesthetics and habitat value. And so we're before you tonight to present the plan, which is developed based upon updated survey data that was collected by the Woods Hole Group and an updated wetlands delineation. And then also the prior plan, clarifying a few points with regards to construction access and limits of work and such. So as you can see here, this is the existing conditions plan. The core bags occupy that that hatch corridor along the face of the artificial dune. That was the prior 2015 project. And if we move on, oops, sorry, maximize this. So if we move on to the proposed conditions, so what we are looking for is to amend the order for the updated construction access and limits of work, along with the time of year restrictions based on the letter filed by DMF for horseshoe crabs. And the town would simply like to continue this work, continue the sand placement to maintain this project under the current order conditions.
Thank you, Mitch. Any questions from the commissioner? Bill?
Yeah, I was just wondering, what happens to the sand? What's the effect of putting that sand there on Barnstable Harbor? And I'm not familiar with this project. It's been ongoing for a while, but did anybody ever consider planting vegetation or something to stabilize that dune?
So the front face of the dune where the sand is placed isn't vegetated, but the crest of the dune was vegetated underneath the original plans. There are some invasives such as phragmites that have moved into the area as well. We're simply submitting an amended order of conditions, so the town is still able to add vegetation as needed out there. But there was vegetation that was planted as part of the original project in 2015.
What happens to the sand? The other question, what when it gets washed out, what are the dynamics that might, is that if you keep putting sand in, eventually, is there an effect on Barnstable Harbor? I'm just wondering. It may be germane to this particular project, but I thought
we haven't looked at sediment transport dynamics or littoral transport processes in relation to this project directly, because we're simply trying to amend the order for the time of year restrictions and for the construction access for the work that's being undertaken under their current order.
Hey, Bill, this is Amber from the DPW. Happy to kind of jump in here because we've discussed the same thing that you're commenting on now. So as Mitch said, it was planted initially back in 2015 when the project was completed. A couple years later, I believe in one of the 2018 storms, the dune was heavily eroded. All of those plants were eroded again. It was replanted at that time after that 2018 work, but then a couple years later, it eroded again. And at that point, only sand had been placed on the dune. I think part of the thinking at that time was this is basically sacrificial sand. It's in close proximity to the harbor and vulnerable to the coastal erosion. So planting it was not a wise use of our funds for the project, but so that's part of the reason why we didn't replant it this last time around in 2022 when we had nourished the dune. And that was something I had consulted with Darcy about at the time, was that those plants were ultimately just getting eroded into the harbor anyways. And we'd rather see it be just sand, clean, compatible sand that ultimately, would be more nourishing the beach. Some of it does end up into the harbor channel, which ultimately the town has to go back and dredge. But there's no quantification on that, as Mitch had said previously.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Amber. Any other questions? So Amber and Mitch, we received the DEM letter, comment letter. Then there is two recommendations. One is the time of the year restrictions is restrictions on all the beach construction activities and the beach nourishment from May 1st to July 31st of any year. And then the second comment will be the beach nourishment equipment should be staged upland of intertidal habitat to minimize the impact and avoid the compactions of the sediment in the mapper shellfish and horseshoe crab netting habitat. So those two recommendations you're okay with, right?
Yes. Yes. I don't think they're planning to, they're not going to store any equipment below the high tide line.
Okay. Any other question from the commissioner? Seeing none. Can we get any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motions to approve the amended order as written with the DMF recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Byrne.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Hangney.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Abstain.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pete. Welcome.
Welcome.
Well, what time? Let's see. Well, we got Pete on here at I don't even have my
4:10.
4:10. Okay. So Pete has joined us at 4:10.
Good luck, Amber and Mitch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 3 sets of minutes: September the 19th, October the 3rd, and October the 10th.
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Hangney.
Aye.
Dampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Our next hearing is November the 14th at 6:30. So could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Hangney.
Aye.
Dampu.
Aye. My shortest meeting yet.
We're adjourned at 4:22.
We cannot meet that.